Welcome back. My name is Yana the Heretic, and this is my channel, Electromagnetic Identity, where I discuss the gates that transit throughout the year that are based off of the I Ching wheel. And this is another gate under the archetype Micheal, the Archangel, who really the flavor of these four gates under Micheal are all about being the most holy, or the good son, the one that is obedient and keeps everything in line, because disorder would be chaotic. So this is another willpower gate. So this is all about how we show up physically, mentally, and whether or not we are capable of doing so. And this is called Gate 21, the gate of the hunter and huntress. And the keynote is called gnawing or biting through. So a pretty intense one for the ego center, because it's about, this daughter who gets her father killed, and she loses her home and her whole entire history because some overlord took over and kicked her out, and she's going on this quest to avenge her father because there's a lot of vengeance, and the vendetta is super real and it will happen. So whoever's on the other end of this force, her force, is totally fucked, because they're going to pay. They're going to pay specifically for what they did, and that will put an equal balance and get her back to her home, and her homeland will be hers again. So this is about, who dishonored you and left you in poverty. And, that's the high ride of Gate 21. And people deserve to take accountability for their shitty actions and stepping out of line. So this is the energy behind policing. And one flutter of Micheal's wing and you're down on your knees and you're like bowing before the holy law, So this is an energy that is pretty freaking nosy. This is the revolving energy of somebody watching you and showing you how inadequate you're acting. So this could be really frustrating to be around people who have Gate 21, because they're going to tell you how inadequate you're acting. They're going to pick apart certain things that you're doing. And this is all about remaining in order. And sometimes it's about being more efficient, and specifically more efficient with your finances and your future. There has to be, order within our systems, or else they will collapse, right? So we may see Trump's taxes get waived, billions of dollars forgiven, but why doesn't every citizen get to have this blank slate? And why do politicians get to decide who comes down, to owning business and land in the melting pot of cultures such as America? There's so much injustice going on and no accountability right now in the ether and in the willpower of people that feel hopeless and helpless, and like, how are we gonna even blah blah blah, continue forward? But these are the people, if they're in their full high capacity of their willpower and doing something about it, they will inspire you to step in and their community to step in. This is a tribal gate, so this is about collecting the tribe that will go against these forces that are so fucked and unfair. And put them in the presence of holiness, so they're scared. They're scared, and shaking at their knees and begging for forgiveness. That's the thing that, these 21s really want the most. And, in a way, that's the way that the ones that are dishonoring and killing others and are greedy, they'll get to learn their lesson. And, it doesn't mean that it has to end in death, because, Archangel Michael doesn't pull those strings, but it's about showing you how you've acted in life and how you should pay, because it's the karmic debt, and that'll even the keel. So these are the folks that have the willpower to control tribal rules. And I call it the straight edge hardcore gate, because these people will spit and bite if you're out of line. They're just going to clog you if they see you doing something that affects like the community or a person. They're going to stand up and fight right there and then. So we all enjoy, multicultural dining and festivities, and nothing is making any damn sense that, we're pushing people out of America, because we're all a bunch of cultures clashing into one. And we see, the spectrums of policing fail so brutally. The people that were meant to keep you safe are the ones that are gonna make sure that you never get away. I think that's a fucking problem. And who's gonna have the energy to beat this inequality down until it's like dead? Like double tap that bitch, So these are people that are looking for their tribe that'll help them tackle these like amazing feats of inequality. This reigns in the territory of the control freak. So every person who has this gate has different objectives of control in different areas of their life. So like seeing two people with this gate can be really interesting. You'd get a lot of experience just watching these two people discuss or debate. And it would be worth examining two people in this relationship, because if they can like get along on their terms, then they have really strong boundaries, really healthy boundaries with each other. This is seated in the right angle cross of tension and the left angle cross of endeavor. So if you look at human design in a chart, there's going to be certain gates that crisscross that make your main theme of your life. It is like the keynote of your specific design and what's going to be the focus of your life. So this is on the right angle cross of tension and the left angle cross of endeavor. And feeling tension around these people is real, because they're watching your every move. And it's like, the movie Minority Report, the AI, theme that's meant to organize people. I don't know if you remember Minority Report, but it's about policing, and using systems like AI to make sure that, if there's any threat in the air, that these policemen can stop it from happening, stop danger from happening. But we see how at the end of the movie that actually does not work. And that's exactly what's going on. How is this freedom? We're being watched by every camera, by all these satellites, this GPS. Like, we're really... our information is out there for anyone to know and take. You can't even take a picture anymore without, having your location being seen. So, the best form of this gate is what I mentioned firstly, is the drive to avenge what is noble and honorable, to protect the sanity of humans here on Earth, and to make sure the future is going to be good for the youth. And Gate 21s are the earthy ones that manage the material plane. And the natural accountants, that have a strong, big, juicy heart for the tribe and make sure everyone gets an equal share of finances. And that's like the good, that's the endeavor aspect. The more interesting part of this gate gets pretty cryptic because it is a part of the money line, the channel of money. So people with this, channel love hearing that they have the money line. Money seems to flow into their field. It comes out of nowhere. You have this like manifestation and you plop, get a bundle of money that helps you. And it could be the exact like amount that you need. And it's so like weird, So yeah, like people love knowing that they have willpower and they have this line, or this channel. And this channel is linked to the throat center. So this is gate 45. That is the polarity of this gate. And gate 45 is the owner of the land versus like the 21 being the steward of the land. So Gate 45 has all of the material wealth, and the 21 gets to like distribute this wealth, It's about like being able to use the land for something profitable, like Airbnb, or like, it's a poor example, but like hunting or, gardening. And the 45 is just like, yeah, like you can use this land, just give me like the best share, and distribute the rest how you see fit. So they're the ones that, Gate 45s are the ones that, put their final stamp of approval on something because it is in the throat. It's, that ego flowing out of the throat center. So, I've seen a lot of people that have this gate or this channel, and they're not really great with money. They haven't been super adequate, and this is where it gets cryptic in the mind, because you really have to have a powerful mindset and an open heart to be able to receive, the things that you need to be able to receive that money. But if you turn in on yourself and feel like you're too inadequate to receive the flow of money, then you're really going to be in that like fight or flight mode, just like everybody, where, you just are stressing about money and like trying to budget and feeling like there's not enough. And that's not true. You actually can be in that flow if you just allow yourself to feel adequate. It's that confidence that comes from the willpower. I know that I can make money because I have all these skills. I have the drive to do so. So why aren't you doing it? Oh, well, it's because I don't feel like I deserve it. So that's really where mindset comes in, and like forming a practice around how deserving you actually are, and being able to use a different language of how you talk to yourself or talk about yourself is extremely important. If you have a cynical attitude, this is not going to work. So the universal money is yours. You just need to be able to allow your heart to receive it. And abundance comes in many ways, right? We've all learned that within this like new age. Yeah, the wellspring dries up if you try to force, and less momentum will happen if you try to force money to come in. If you're a true manifester, I think that that's more possible for you, rather than, it's always important to have a good mindset, but to attempt to manifest something purely, that doesn't work for everybody. People have to use their energy. They have to bump into things a lot of the time. They can't just sit around and meditate and like manifest the things that they need, you know. And even manifestors, they're usually talking, you know, about the things that they want to happen, and that's how they happen. You can't just be sitting around, you know, and waiting for things to drop in. So it's an important thing to take note of. All of the lines within this gate are shaped to fit the profile lines, just like every single gate. And line 1 is the investigator, right? So these people will be rooted in their own self-respect, and they won't allow anyone to make them feel inadequate because they're rooted, you know. Line 2, that's the hermit, and line 2 will make sure that they have their own space, and they will react with severity when needed because they need to take time alone, and people should respect that. Line 3, that is the martyr, and they will attempt to soften inadequacy with numbness or comfortability of the false ego by abusing intoxicants and breaking bonds. So it softens inadequacy because they're, you know, numbing themselves, right? So it makes things a little bit more lighthearted. It makes you feel less guilty. People can get trapped in that mode and take no accountability for their actions because they're not going back and saying like, oh, sorry, you know. They're most likely just kind of cutting people off, and that's a difficult line to have for sure. Sometimes it is necessary because people go through their, you know, negredo state alone. But yeah, the false ego will show you eventually how many consequences you're bumping into. So line 4, that is the opportunist. Line 4 will strategize how it is best to respond in the pushback within the network. So this tribal gate, you know, they're standing in this like very indifferent, neutral language in order to like not penetrate or force anything, so that they could get the most people a part of their cause. And line 5, that is the heretic. It will devise what is fair instead of being emotionally charged about something. Line 6, that is the role model. Line 6 will attempt to hold themselves together against all chaos that may happen in life. The role models typically have it hard, you know, and they have to really learn a lot since they've been bumping into things the most in life and really seeing the trial and error the hardest. So they must keep their composure at all costs, because they don't want to disassemble. They will most likely in life, but in order to keep their flow, they have to have this composure and know how, you know, what tools are in their arsenal to do that. Let's see. The people who I've seen push themselves furthest with this gate didn't even have ego definition, which is kind of wild. It shows up in how they kind of break their body down eventually with the the need to show up and fight and prove themselves. So it can be kind of like difficult when you don't have like all the willpower that's consistent to do so. But I would say if you have this gate but not a defined ego or heart, I would say, you know, try to find that person that is the 45 and the counterpart, so you do have that connection and bridge, you know, this like contract or partnership with somebody that makes you feel connected to that drive because you have a purpose. you have money to make, you have material things to move. So definitely finding somebody that you're working closely with that has the 45 is extremely important, or else you will eventually start to see how you try to show up, but you fail at doing it, and then you feel bad about failing, and it can ultimately trickle like this oscillating negative cycle within that makes you feel worthless. So important to note that. Someone with fear motivation and this gate in their personality sun could be constantly causing fear and tension in the network, in their tribe, to be able to get hands to help, and just come. They'll be like that activist that's super intense. Like, you're not going to show up, that every body matters, because, this tree's going to get cut down, and it's been like, here for thousands of years. Like, you're going to let that happen. So, they definitely make you feel fear. Same thing with guilt. They're going to guilt you like into doing something, and it's going to be, uncomfortable and tense to the point you may be like, yeah, like, sure, I'll do it. Just so that you don't like hate me forever. And another interesting component is if this gate is backed up by need or fear motivation. The thing about that is, that really promotes that like breaking down, more so. Like, if you need something, or if you have fear that you don't have something, then you're going to like feel like this drive to prove that you can sustain it. And like I said, like, if you only have this gate and not the entire channel, or any channel or any definition in the ego center, like, you definitely should take a look at that, because these could be chronic issues, chronic illness, chronic fatigue, lack of, lymphatic drainage, or, issues in the fascia. Stuff like that can definitely arise for people. So, definitely look if you have this gate and you have like need or fear motivation. Regardless, the heart has to be functioning with depth here, and we need more people becoming rich in resources that actually care about the environment, that actually care about the greater picture, and, gate 45 is the gate of the gatherer, and it wasn't in transit, this time around, while gate 21 was online. So we kind of measure how adequate we were, as we initiate ourselves within this quarter of initiation. We are measuring how adequate we are in 2026 in general financially. Like, what are we capable of? Because we've seen a lot of changes in the tax, in our taxes and tariffs, and like a lot of people are struggling economically, because like there's no like leisure expenses, there's no like savings, most people are like not even going and buying products because they're like, yeah, like I should save money, like the future is like up in the air, and definitely difficult to measure, adequacy within this year. So, how adequate are we financially as the world flips a 180 on us, and what keeps us driven to stay confident, in this weird age. How do we initiate ourselves to receive material wealth, to continue making dreams come true? And who are we going to take with us? What does our network look like? How much does our network matter? Some people have everything stripped away from them to see, where they have been selfish and controlling. That's very much a part of this low standard of this gate. Who is willing to dive deep to uncover the heart of their own matter? It's a kind of a difficult question to comprehend sometimes. I'll read it again. Who is willing to dive deep to uncover the heart of their own matter? So matter is like what is material here, our physical matter. This is like what we're worth and how adequate we are. That's all ego stuff. That's ego questions, and what are we trying to prove? So the questions of the week are, if you were financially stable and your cup overfloweth, what causes would you support today? How high-strung are you to make ends meet? Do you make sure that you aren't stepping over other people just to do so? How do you control yourself from being too nosy and watching how you impact others rather than just observing their every move? Social skills. Who has social skills? Who has the ability to tell somebody, hey, this is what's going on, And I see this pattern within you, and maybe that's not the most socially acceptable thing, to be so cold and not realize what's going on. How do we explain that, How does money help you in life? We are now working on eliminating the eat the rich phrase, because it means that you don't believe that you will be a good person if you're wealthy. People are definitely speaking more about the soul of money. It's a great book, by the way. It impacted me a lot when it came down to seeing money differently, because I have been in a very greedy household, and it made me hate money for a really long time. But I realized that in order to make really big moves, for the community and for the earth, I have to have these resources and abundance flowing in. So definitely believe that your morals will adhere to who you are and to your heart fully, and maybe do a spell about it. My morals are adhered to my heart so much that even if I have wealth, I will choose to displace it wisely and distribute it so that everyone can be wealthy with me. Set yourself up for practice every day. Make sure you don't verbally eject the chance of making money come your way. Watch your negative tongue and expectations or visualizations of the worst thing happening. Eradicate them with the mental fire, the calcination. Note how your life improves drastically once you get out of your own fucking way. And that was Gate 21. I hope that was a very severe dose, and I will see you guys next week. Thank you.